when we came along in '81, there's kind of one way to do it. Get signed, get signed, get on first base, and then see how far you can go. That was the way you did it. That got you on the first rung of the ladder.
It's almost like corporate America to some degree, right? I mean, there was like 40 years ago, there was an accepted path. You got a job right out of college, you stuck with the same company, and you worked your butt off. You kind of
and it certainly wasn't much of a guarantee. There were a lot of bands that did that, but they didn't get the deal, or they did get the deal, but then a bunch of things changed and then things didn't materialize. So, I mean, I'm not trying to paint a picture that like what R.E.M. did was easy in any sense, or that it was likely in any sense. They beat the odds. I mean, it's always unlikely that you're going to definitely go and just like be able to make that your life's work, do well, be compensated for it fairly.
If R.E.M. sounded like all the bands of its time that were like getting Billboard chart success,
right?
Do you think they would have been as successful?
Absolutely not. No, they marked their own path. They knew what they wanted to do. It evolved over time. They chose the name R.E.M. out of desperation in the whole dictionary, and going through, there are all kinds of stories, most of them true, about how they chose their name. But they didn't want a name that sounded like the other name they did consider. They were never officially called this, but they did consider a name called Twisted Kites. But Twisted Kites sounded a whole lot like all these other new wave bands, and they would have been gone after 5 years. And my role was almost like a facilitator, like an enabler, and to a certain extent trying to take what they wanted to do as artists and make it kind of work out there. And then sometimes it didn't. Sometimes they'd make decisions that you look back on it in retrospect, maybe it could have been a better decision, but that was okay. It was their decision. I think nowadays, the best thing I think that the youngish generation has, like most of the people sitting in this room, best I can tell, your students, is they don't have a rear view mirror for those days. I think if you ask me that question, how would an R.E.M. do it today? I go, oh boy, it'd be almost impossible, because the way we did it's gone. So how would you figure out between all the various streaming services, all the various apps, all the ways that people discover music? It's just so many more variables, so much more complicated. But the fact is, they're doing it. I mean, there are people making this work now in way more creative ways.
Well, one of the interesting things that I'm hearing from you that I've heard from just about everybody that sat on that chair is that their career rarely ever took the straight path, right? And when you're in college or younger, I think you tend to think, oh, life is very linear. I go from here to here to here, but it doesn't really work that way.
It didn't,
I mean, even with what you were describing, it's such a sort of zigzag way of going around things.
And I think there's even more so now. I mean, in terms of the number of jobs you're going to have, the number of networks and places you're going to live. I mean, I think it's even more random now than there are more possibilities, more choices.
But it's cool that this thirst that you had to go out there and get this experience. That kind of one thing led to another. I'm curious, if you were to encounter your college age self today, what advice would you give your younger self, or what would you tell them?
Just stay open to learning. Stay open to learning in all these different parts of your life. I guess the other thing I'd say to my college self, and I did say this a few times during our career, is try to take negatives and turn them into positives, because what is it, the great saying that it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to it. And stuff happens to all of us, and you're going to go through really, really tough times, and times you go, geez, how are we going to work this out? And you try to figure out a way to flip that. Try to figure out a way to take even really bad things and turn them into positives.